Hey guys, Code Red here. Today we're going to be making the main bass from my remix of Space Laces into place. This is how it sounds. So the sound is pretty simple. It's without any processing. This is what it sounds like. Without any processing and a sub. Oops. Yeah, so it sounds like ass without any processing. It's a very simple sound. This is what it looks like. I'm going to have the preset for download in the description so you can grab the wavetable, whatever you need. We're also going to be going over how to make wavetables like this because that's super important to this sound. I called it Mongol because the original version of this shit, I used Mongolian throat singing audio as the wavetable, and it sounded like ass, and so I just resorted to good old-fashioned kick tables. But yeah, so first things first, we're gonna, all right, we got all the processing off. I'm gonna show you guys how to make kick wavetables because that's super important to understand, and it's a really powerful technique that I use in a lot of my shit. Work on two screens, so there we go. Can see everything on screen. So to make a kick table, all you're gonna do is you're gonna click import audio to single cycle. This is very important. And then you're just gonna go into your kick folder. Here's some of my kicks that I made, and you're just gonna go ahead and pick a kick and load it in, and then you're gonna duplicate it and import another one. Oh no, totally picking these randomly. Let's do that one. Maybe one more. Oh no, let's do, I don't know, this one. It's the actual kick I use for the track. There we go. All right, now we have 3 kicks here imported as single cycles. I'm gonna normalize them, and then we're gonna crossfade them. And if you want, you can normalize the crossfade as well. And then, let me make sure this isn't routed to anything. This is what these sound like. So it's a pretty cool sound. You can do a lot with this, as you can tell. This one kind of turned out like ass here. I'll show you some ones that I made that I know already sound like pretty decent. Yeah, so this is kind of a way to get a fuckload of wavetables really quick. It is pretty important, though, with these to turn the random down. Otherwise, you can get some weird results. But they can result in a pretty cool sound if you like turn the octave all the way down. Oops. Anyways, you get the idea. But yeah, so that's a great way of making a bunch of wavetables. As far as the sound goes, so I'm not going to be recreating it totally because I don't think I could redo it exactly the same anyways, but I'll show you guys all the settings that I have. So to start, we just have, turn off all this shit. And again, you can just go and grab this from the description. But so to start out, we just got a sine wave. Very basic, following this LFO shape. I have the rate on 1/8. So, you know, it's always a move to set a macro to rate because you're probably gonna be automating that a lot. And here I'm adding some FM from B, as you would expect. At well, I had a macro on that, but let's call it like, oh no, 30% onto this kick wavetable. Now you might be wondering why not just go straight to this. And it's just because when you're doing it FMing from a sine, you get a little bit of a sub and it softens the sound a little bit, which can be really nice. Now, as you can see, we also have the what's it called, the fucking LFO on the wavetable position, just moving it slightly. But you can see that's not the only movement happening on here, and that is because we also have another LFO automating the movement of the wavetable. So we're going from 40 down 8 and on LFO3 we're going 36. If you guys want to copy that down, make sure random is down for both. That's super important. And as you can see, my phase knobs are a little bit off. I have a macro for that, and I'll explain in a little bit why I did that. So next, we're gonna add a filter. I used just a standard low pass. Give it a little bit of a shape, but the low pass is being controlled by LFO2. It's gonna be just this very basic little slide over here. This is gonna absolutely nerf the fuck out of the sound. It's gonna sound very quiet and mute, and this gives us an opportunity to later come back and compress and distort the shit out of it to give it some life. So right now, if you want to copy it, it's gonna be 68 up 95, 19 resonance. Oh yeah, and a bunch of drive. And I also have this on the noise oscillator, where I have this noise sample that I stole from a Nosco preset from Splice, because I'm a fucking thief. Same thing here. LFO1 volume that's controlling all the volume parameters is going to be on here, and then just filtering that as well. It's not doing much, honestly. You can. It sounds like it's kind of doing something, but that just once it's all processed, you won't really hear much. And we also have a little bit of bend. It's always fun to mess around with some of the bend modes, because you can get some really cool results out of this. Like some different sounds just by switching around this. Yeah, just fun to like tap through these. I have it at, I don't even know what I have it bend plus, at 18. Then we have the effects. So for effects, I'm gonna do this. So this is the actual load order that we have here, but I'm gonna show you this the way I actually did it, because I want you to see my thought process behind this. So the first things first, we're gonna distort the shit out of this, and I use Sign Shaper. This is probably my favorite distortion module in Serum. Yeah, it has a really nice sound. Sound distortion in general is really a fucking really nice textures to it. So here we have a drive of 18% being pushed by LFO1 up to 32, and prior to that we're also doing some EQ within the distortion itself. Now this is what really like kind of gives a sound that like punch, that like fucking that oof when you hear it live. So it's like excessive, like it's way too much, and that's intentional. We're pushing the shit out of it so we can now pull it back. A lot of like sound design, you're going kind of in ebbs and flows. It's taking a lot, so to give room to add with distortion, pulling back to give some more room for distortion. All right, so now we have this absolute garbage sound right here. And next, we're gonna shape it with some EQ. Now, most of you guys are probably familiar with this, the classic fucking like how to make a sound talk a little bit, and that's gonna be high pass, high resonance with this shape. This is how you get that. How do I put it there? And we're also scooping the high mids a little bit, going down. Where's their LFO2 with a notch filter, minus 18, 55. There you go. There's your numbers if you want to copy it down. And then we're also going to be shaping the sound with a little bit of the phaser. The phase 48, I find it a really good filter. Maybe a little bit less over sound design, but almost like as a cleaning tool. I use it a lot, like right around this angle. For some reason, it just cleans up a sound. I think you're scooping a lot of those harsh mids that can get really ugly when you distort shit. Yeah, so that's a big difference, big difference. 147, and then yeah, just some basic hyper. 15. That's not doing shit. Yeah, rate all the way up. Detune at 65, and then I am pushing the mix all the way up to 44. And yep, and then just some compression. basic OTT. Honestly, I probably should have put the release up. I'm just going to do that in retrospect. Putting the release up is a move because otherwise you can get some weird tails. Not always a move. So a lot of times when I load up OTT, I'm just if it's fucking in post, I'm just pushing the time right up. If it's in Serum, I'm pushing the release up just because it brings out some tails that are a lot of times super unwanted. Anyways, now let's talk a little bit about those macros. So this phase technique that I was showing you guys earlier is another great way to get some variations out of your sound. Doing it on a sine is kind of fucking wild, but it did work in this case. And by doing this, by automating the phase of the two different wavetables at the same time, you can get some really cool, like different sounding textures out of one sound as like, a little variation. So right now, it sounds like this. See what I mean? I think we had it about there. Anyway, so that covers the sound. So that's super, super simple. Very basic Serum. So really where the fun begins is going to be in the post-processing. So I'm going to turn it on. And this is what it sounds like with all the post-processing, no sub. And we're just going to go right up the line. It's mostly pretty straightforward stuff. We're doing a little bit of parallel, nothing crazy. So for starters, I have this quote-unquote fucking fat rack that I made that's going to be very simple. Just a couple of basic plugins. We have a little patch reception going on here, but I'll show you guys what's going on with that. So right now, all I have is OTT, very standard. Always start with an OTT. Not always. A lot of times I start with an OTT just to bring a sound to life, and then a Camel Crusher. Those two, most of my sounds start out with just OTT into Camel Crusher. Yeah, and then this, so don't judge me, this used to be the way, the cleanest way to actually do frequency splitting in old FL, and I have this little preset saved from way back in the day, and I've just always been way too lazy to change it. Anyway, so I have isotope on just the high end. And what we're doing here is, and yes, I'm aware you can do this within Trash. When I made this, I was a dumbass and I never bothered to fix it, and it kind of gets the job done, so why bother now? Let's see. So as far as the distortion, I'm using Blues Driver, cranking, pulling the pre down a bit, very basic, just a little bit of distortion to the high end, and then I do some convolution to soften it up because with it, it sounds very, very harsh. And then the convolution, I'm using Rusty Bin, just pulls it down a little bit, kind of a low mix on it. Softens it up a little bit, gives it a little bit of that character that's going to be more important. All these changes right now, when you're early in your processing chain, they sound very minor, but once you begin to compound compression and compound distortion and all these things, these tiny little variations are going to be huge down the line. Like, once I turn all this shit on, a tiny change in the patch is going to be huge. This is why a lot of times when I do sound design, what I'll do is I'll make like some super basic sound, process the fuck out of it, get the processing done, and then go back to the sound and then start working from the sound again. And this way, even tiny little changes to the sound itself are going to result in massive differences in the final result. Anyways, this is probably the most interesting quote-unquote part of the patch. This is where we're actually doing some kind of unique parallel stuff. Again, nothing crazy. All I have right now is, so we have two signal chains. The top one is going to be, I'm cutting all the mids. So this is going to be our sides here. I'll rename it, make it a little bit easier to see. All right. And here we're cutting all of our sides. So this is going to be our mid signal. So I'm going to mute these, and this is what it sounds. This is just straight through, just literally the mono signal, nothing on it, right? Signal starts here, goes to here, right? Very straightforward. Now, what I did is I split the mono signal into two different sections, created a high pass, and actually added a little bit of stereo to it using Serum effects with combs and a crazy high hyper dimension and right with a bunch of unison voices as well as combs. And what this sounds like on its own is really weird. It has that I don't know what the fucking word is. You know what I mean? It has that combsy hyper dimensiony sound. But I don't want a lot of that, so I'm pulling the mix way down on this. So now it's just blended together like this. So already that's adding a little bit of stereo. Now, what I'm doing to the sides here, I'm gonna just turn on the sides. The sides is what they sound like with all the processing. Yeah, it sounds very empty, obviously, but so what I immediately did some OTT time up again, depth down. You're not gonna want to go too crazy on the depth for your sides. It's gonna get real weird. Followed by some EQ, cutting out most of this shit because a lot of the side signal, the lower frequencies of the side signal are gonna be coming from here. And then we did some trash too. And yeah, just some more convolution on it. So this is just creating that kind of a nice little washed out high end. And this is kind of giving you the meat of the high end, and this is the meat of the sound. So this is what it sounds like. You're getting a more mono but washed out sound. And I thought it worked really well in conjunction with the processing that came after. So then we just have a little bit of EQ, boosted around 1000 hertz, gives it a little peak. I thought the high end was a little harsh, so did a little cuts there, nothing crazy. And then we're bringing back a little bit of the high end with some ozone imager. Again, very basic stuff. No stereoization because I didn't want to create any phasing. And then lastly, we have this patcher here. This is just a straight chain, but I ran out of space, so this is what I do in that case. So 2 dispersers. It can be fun stacking dispersers. You can get some really lasery, cool fucking results doing this. Here, I'll show you guys what it sounds like at this point. So this is what it gives it, that kind of laser character that we all know and love, classic disperser. Right, very straightforward. And then it's just going into on OTT. Again, time all the way up. I don't want those fucking tails, man. Get the tails out of here. And then kind of medium depth, and we're pushing the gain a little bit. And then we're just doing a Fletcher Munson EQ with the what's it called, the ratio turned down. So if you're not familiar with the Fletcher Munson curve, I highly suggest looking into it, but I'll show you guys what it is. It's essentially the frequencies that the human ear is most sensitive to. And you can go ahead, and if you want, you can copy down these settings, but I highly recommend like Googling it for yourselves. This is what the Fletcher Munson curve actually looks like inverted. So it's really like this, right? Those are the frequencies the human ear is most sensitive to. So it's going to be 88, 618, 1020, 23, what the fuck is that? I can't see. 2320, 3720. Then there you guys go. And so you can save this as a preset, and you can, if a sound is getting a little harsh, slow this up. You do this. Most of the time I turn this off, but I have it there for good measure. And yeah, this is going to be a really good way to clean up your high end. Fletcher Munson EQs are super powerful. Anyway, so this is where we're at now. So the sound is coming along. Just as a reminder, this is where we were just a few clicks ago. But it's still sounding kind of, it's not quite there. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna find a little bit of an EQ, and this is more song specific. This is gonna be to make sure it fits with the sub and the mix down. So if you're gonna be using this sound in a track, yours might look a little different, you know. But yeah, high cut around 15K. There's usually not that much information that you're gonna need up here, so you can probably just chop it off most of the time. Most of the time, not always, most of the time. and then a low boost around 1.5, and a low cut around 8K to reduce harshness. Now I also cut sides below 200. You don't need to do this. I did it. It sounded a little bit cleaner for me. And then, yeah, of course we have a low cut, and this is just to make it fit with the sub, which we'll go over there. We'll go over in a second. And then lastly, this is just a reverb throw. So that's just for the song. And then here's a little reverb to put on the end. Yeah, very, very low size, very low wet, small room, nothing special. So this is what the final sound sounds like without a sub. And with the sub, and yeah, the sub is very straightforward, very, very basic. So we're gonna have just sine wave, random down, always, 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 always. I cannot emphasize this enough. Turn your random down when you're working with subs. You do not need your sub starting over here and over here and over here for no fucking reason. Turn your random down. Thank me later. And then we also have DS saw triangle with the oh my god, my thing's freezing. My computer is fighting for its life a little bit. With that middle one, that one, whatever the fuck it's called. And then yeah, it's the exact same LFO shape as the main bass, and we're doing a little plucky automation on it to give it that volume. Here, wait, let me show you guys the thing. And I believe, yeah, nothing here. A little bit of noise. We do have the noise with a high rate LFO on it, just to give it a little sizzle. It's even cut out. Honestly, it doesn't even need it. Yeah, whatever. It does not need it. But yeah, and so here's the processing for that. So chopping off the highs, don't need it. Saturating it, not at all. Oh no, it's doing something. Okay, yeah. So warm tape on FabFilter Saturn. If you don't have Saturn, get it. It's awesome. Yeah, just a little bit of saturation, and yeah, that appears to be, that's quite literally it. Yeah, that's all it for the sub, and then it's just mixed in with the sound. And I always like to set it to mono just to be safe. Obviously, there's nothing making this shit stereo, but you know, might as well. And so this is your sound. Yeah, and making variations of that is really, really easy from here on out. Like, I'm pretty sure most of the sounds in this track, like, yeah, it's all the same sound, just different wavetables, maybe different wavetable positions. Fucking, yeah, like this one. Where is it? Yeah, this one, it's just gonna be a yeah, also sine wave, different wavetable. I'm thinking of releasing a wavetable pack because I make a lot of wavetables. All these ones you can see here are gonna be ones that I've made over time. Yeah, and honestly, I bet you guys could have to get some use out of them because there's some really cool shit in here. I nowadays have found myself mostly reaching for these, and it helps, you know, making your own wavetables can really help you develop a sound, so I highly recommend doing that. Anyways, that pretty much covers it. If I missed anything, feel free to drop it in the comments. Let me know. This was my first tutorial, so if I bumblefuck my way through it, bear with me. I'm sure the quality of these will get better. We'll get there. Anyways, you guys have a great day, and peace out.